So, I usually like to name my presentation after the popular songs or popular movies, conveying the semantics and the spirit of the presentation. And one of the versions was The Wind of Change, the famous Scorpions song. Yeah, exactly. And then I thought, well, you know, the wind of change, like change usually implies either something good or bad. Like, it actually, not all people like the change. So I changed it to the chance, because chance has way better semantics. It's more about being able to catch the opportunity, to seize the moment, to convert this opportunity into something bigger. And I strongly believe that we are living right now in the moment where technology accelerates that fast, and the impact that it makes is so fast that we never saw before, and it's only the beginning. I think you probably guys heard of the concept of singularity, right? Like the acceleration of the innovation to the point where, like, at some point, like, we probably leave our bodies and live somewhere in a different dimensions. But today we're not yet there, and we're going to talk about a couple of technologies that we think should be on the radar screen of all the insurance businesses and what's happening. Like, we're not going to be able to talk about all the possible technologies, all the future technologies, like in the terms of 15, 20 years from now, because of a lack of time, and like we won't be able to monetize them that quickly. But we're going to talk about only of those that bring the value right now, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next year, in the businesses like insurance business. So before we go there, I think it's important to start from some historical perspective of where we are right now, where we were, how we came here, and where we are going. And if you look at the history of the 20th century, we actually passed a couple of ages there, right? So originally there was an age of manufacturing, where all the manufacturers had all the power, were the biggest companies in the world, were capitalized a lot. Then there was an age of distribution, primarily after the World War II. All the big box retailers were calling the shots, destroying all these small boutiques all over the place, all over the world. And now, by the way, they are complaining that Amazon disrupts them, but they disrupted the entire industry before that. So the age of information, and today we live in the age of customer. And the way we think about it, it's the age of savvy customer. So what technology did to us as a customers, as a consumers, is that significantly empowered us to make the best decisions than ever before. Previously, because of the presence only of physical channels, because of the limited access to the information, we're not that empowered, right? Like, brands had all the power that they could dictate and impose on the consumer market. Because of technology, it enabled information discovery. We can compare prices. We can select what is best for us, right? We have different channels. We can use like these channels to receive the service in the best way possible. We have user-generated content where we can rely on social proof and feedback from those people who we trust, instead of watching the commercials and believing what we are told there, right? So all of these advances created the situation where consumer is empowered. And I'm very happy to live in this moment, because it means that we can have a better service from all the businesses, including insurance businesses. We're going to go there a little bit further. So at the same time, what we see right now, we see what I call like the technology big bang, because like the level of innovation that we see these days is uncomparable to what we saw like even a decade ago. I remember when I started working as a software developer, maybe 17, 18 years ago, I had just like only 1 or 2 CDs of MSDN, Microsoft Developer Network knowledge base, and that was it. Right now, like, the space is so broad that even like the smartest people in the world cannot like have all the knowledge, like cannot be experts in all the possible systems. And here, what we try to do, like, this is a very simplified version of the analysis we constantly run within Softserve, is that we're trying to map the technologies as they emerge, as their potential impact on the business, on the industry, and our lives, and see what we could do in terms of the innovation, in terms of the innovative products there. We have mapped here a couple of those that we believe are worth strong attention, and among those I would name big data, artificial intelligence, IoT, and of course cloud which has been a while for a pretty long time, but the level of innovation that we see even in that area is still significant. So it still is growing, and we see that companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're still innovating a lot there. The special emphasis here is on artificial intelligence, because it can exceed all the expectations by far. What was really not possible like 10 years ago now becomes possible. We see a lot of innovation with reinforcing neural network, with generative adversarial networks, a lot of things that, like, a lot of use cases became available these days. And we wanted to start on a couple of these use cases, like in 3 categories of technologies. The first that I would map here is Internet of Things, and I would like to tell a couple of stories how companies use these technologies in order to boost the innovation on their side. One of the important things is so-called dynamic risk management, because we have access to the live stream of events. Either it's a car dongle, or it's a smart home, or it's a smart watch, or it could be even adaptive cruise control system, right? We have this information here, and we can approach the risk in a different way than we approached it before, not statically, but dynamically. And how we approach the risk dynamically, we can be dynamic in our pricing, in premiums, and in how we kind of define insurance in the future, not as a one-time thing, but rather as a utility that people use to transfer the risk, like they use electricity or water or some other like things that we got used to already. It also leads to the risk reduction, and in some cases it actually leads to the risk elimination or risk transfer. One of the interesting things that happens on the market right now is vehicle-to-vehicle technology. So regulators mandate vehicle manufacturers to have vehicle-to-vehicle technology, like vehicle-to-vehicle communication technology, in the new car starting from 2023. It means that vehicles will be able to communicate with each other and to adapt how they basically drive themselves. As a result of that, we believe that the level of accidents on the roads will be significantly reduced, and the level of risk will be lower. And going further, in this scenario, when we have a driverless cars, it means that the risk probably totally shifts from the driver, because nobody drives it anymore, right? To the car manufacturer or to platform operators, if there will be a company who will be having thousands and thousands of vehicles on the streets. So those are really cool scenarios that are going to happen. Basically, some of them are happening right now. Some of them will be happening in about 3-5 years. But it is important to understand the potential that these technologies could bring here. Another thing that I would like to mention here in the relationship with Internet of Services, Internet of Things, is vehicle-to-infrastructure technology, which basically allows seamless interface between vehicle and infrastructure. You go to a parking lot, the bar opens, you automatically charge. You go to gas station, you automatically charge. You don't need to do anything, and that will be possible in about 5-7 years. Assuming that we will have enough capital investment into our infrastructure. Technology-wise, it is already possible. So all these smart city scenarios will be pretty possible, and this is something that we could exploit in our use cases. The other thing the other area of technology is big data and advanced analytics. And here we see a lot of advances. Right now, I think most of the companies that I at least talk to, they're not yet there. They're still in the area where they do creating the data platform, creating the data lake, integrating all the data sources together. So they haven't yet built a very mature data platform so that to leverage all the possible scenarios. But once they do this, it opens the opportunities to individualize the approach to risk and price modeling. That will be a very significant innovation. There could be a lot of innovation in designing the new products, especially digital products. For example, I'm booking the hotel, and there is the risk of cancellation. My plans may change, right? Do I need to insure myself out of this because I prepaid for hotel or not, right? Or, for example, insuring the returns for e-commerce when I do the return, right? How we could do that. So all these things become possible. And the last thing that I like to mention here is cybersecurity. So cybersecurity management is a little bit complicated area here because it involves so many different parameters that and intangibles that you need somehow to identify and put into your model. So something like advanced big data analytics will enable these type of scenarios. So that will be possible to do. Some companies are doing this. Most of the companies are not doing this yet to the full extent. And the last category of technologies that I would like to highlight here is artificial intelligence, and specifically machine learning, because we believe that it's the last in the list, but it's probably the most impactful with all the potential that it unlocks. So we already learned how to make our back office operations more efficient. We use RPA, we work with vendors of RPA tools, robotic process automation. They add smoothly but slowly and smoothly they add capabilities to, with the machine learning, with like some smart capabilities there. But what is really I think the untapped area, and only several companies I saw really looking into this direction, is intelligent automation of the frontline service. From customer engagement to customer onboarding to claims processing, things like that. Maybe you heard of the company Lemonade, right? I think everybody who worked in this space, they heard of them. So these guys are doing pretty cool job with innovating on their side. So they basically have a bots which onboard and dynamically do the underwriting for the new clients and then do the claims processing. And I think that the true potential of artificial intelligence is not even here. It's basically fully automating insurance business. Imagine the insurance company which is run by algorithm, and there is a CEO reporting to the board, and that's it, right? So these things may be possible, and it's not those futuristic scenarios, because right now, we basically taking one area by another and adding, making it more and more and more intelligent. So those things become really possible. And the last area, sub-area here, is product innovation. So we believe that there is a really big space to innovate and to create new types of products. Because on the one hand, technology basically destroys one set of risks. On the other hand, it creates a new type of risk. Cyber risks, some risks that don't exist in the material world, but rather exist in the digital world, right? We believe that these type of risks will overweight the material risks, and eventually this is a big opportunity for insurance businesses to innovate, to create new products in the digital world. And as a result, even though we see some threats in some businesses that will hurt insurance industry, we see that the opportunity to grow is way bigger than those threats that exist. So that's the short update for me. I would like to thank all of you. I'm a little bit tired, I apologize. Was more energized this morning, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So the challenge with microinsurance is that it's between the fixed and variable cost, right? So the marginal cost has to be very, very small. And that once you enable the very small variable cost, then your fixed cost will be distributed through the broader set of micro insurances, right? So that's the condition that we need to meet in order to enable micro insurances. And the way to meet it is to fully automate the underwriting process. Maybe we want to be able to automate the product design, because that's a more creative work. But I think we can automate all the other processes to a big extent down the path, including underwriting, including claims processing, all these things. Once we automate it, the microinsurance becomes really possible use case. Right now, if we don't have those capabilities, we cannot talk about microinsurance. But I'm not sure where it will happen, but we know the criteria which the companies have to meet in order to be able to do the microinsurance business. We see the cases right now in China where they have microinsurances. For example, I'm buying something at Alibaba, and then I buying some microinsurance to ensure that if I need to return the products, they will cover part of my shipment costs and things like that, right? But again, like in order to do that, we need to have a pretty good fixed versus variable cost structure. And the way to do that is to have the automation on the back end. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I'll just speak loudly. Is anybody doing microinsurance right now in the market?
Are there any companies that are in the marketplace that are actually attempting microinsurance?
So I'm personally not aware of any company who is doing that. We were talking to a couple of companies in China, but we never had any business with anyone who is doing microinsurance right now. So I believe the state of the market is basically reflects the readiness of these companies to do these. Like they're not ready for this yet. And again, like we just need to drive the right balance between the fixed cost and the variable cost. Once we reach that, like it will become a pretty plausible use case. All right, I'm right here.
Meet you halfway.
A quick point of view. Why do you suppose the likes of Lemonade are not able to turn a profit? The likes of Lemonade, innovators as such, that provide an end-to-end insurance, why do you suppose they are not able to turn a profit?
Feels like it's a very tricky question. I have no idea. Yeah, I think yeah. So sometimes, but like in reality, sometimes in order to turn your business to the profitable business, you need to reach a certain scale. And in many cases, the unprofitability of the business is explained by the higher fixed cost that you invest into something and the small variable cost. So, so in this regard, like if you grow your like customer base, like there's some point like where you start to become profitable. So it's a function of a scale, and I think one of the reasons like I could, hypothesize right now, because I really don't know why they're not profitable, right? But one of the hypotheses I could put here is that they just not yet there in terms of their user base and the size, right? Once they reach the size, they should become profitable. That's my hypothesis. But if anyone has any other ideas, like or maybe some insights, I would be really interesting to learn about it as well. There was somebody else here. Oh, sorry. All right. Thank you.